So being technically challenged, I do seem to be surviving. You know, I just got to be up for decided not to seek a re-election for the Senate office. I was just going to return home to the ranch here in Southern Oregon. And when people found out that I wasn't running for the Senate position, my phone rang off the hook, and people were literally coming to my house to ask me to run for this commission spot. So after a lot of careful thought and some conversation with my kids and everything, they said, "Home, Dad, oh, here I am. Why am I running for county commissioner?" Well, I think my experience both in the business and my 8 years experience at the state house, I think that will serve us very well in Josephine County. You know, the county is just a subdivision of the state, and understanding the county and understanding the state will go a long ways. I don't know if a lot of you know, but before I became state senator, I was involved at county. Oh, yeah, I was chair at the airports. I was on the forestry board. I was on the ag board. I was on different task force. So my involvement with Josephine County goes back 40 years, at least 40 years, especially with a lot of land use issues. I've managed the Fort Vanoy Irrigation District just west of the Grants Pass for about 30 years now, and trying to hand that one off to my son, but that's not going so well. He doesn't want to take on the task, and it is a task because it's pretty much a non-paid position. But volunteerism in all these different boards and everything, that's what makes a community. I really support all the different boards in the county, all the different appointments. That's what makes it work. That's what is different between our process here in America as a republic. When you start going to other countries that doesn't have this kind of system, where actually the people do govern. Most people don't understand that, but in the United States, the people govern. It's not the government, it's the people. And we have to make sure that that's out there and that people really understand that. And having all the different board positions, all the different task force in the county, that's what it's about. The people are governing. The commissioner's job, you're managed. You are selected by the people to manage. And that's what that position does, is manage. So as we go forward, I think with all the history I have in the county, all the knowledge I have of understanding state government and federal government, I think that'll help us a lot.
Great, thank you.
Josie?
Yes.
Josie, I can't see any 3 minutes or 2 minutes, or is there a sign you're holding up or anything?
Yeah, so I will hold up my phone and I have alarm going off when it's 3 minutes, if that works for everyone.
Okay, so that's all just consistent. I just didn't know how you were notifying the 3 minutes. So, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, and we're going to actually move into Commissioner Dan DeYoung next.
Hi, I'm Dan DeYoung, and I have served my first term. I'm just finishing up my first term as on the Board of County Commissioners. Why did I run for county commissioner? I spent 7.5 years over in the city of Grants Pass in the city council. I worked with the Board of County Commissioners from time to time. In that time between the city and the county, I saw that there really needed to be a little more communication between those two entities because we share the same footprint, basically. And I thought, you know what, let's get over onto the county side. I ran once unsuccessfully, and I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise because it gave me 4 more years to follow through and actually take a look at what the county commissioner really actually meant. When I got elected, I was elected along with Commissioner Morgan. The way the system works is every cycle, the staff here has to break in a new boss, basically. And they got a double dose of it in 3 years ago with Commissioner Morgan and I taking the seat along with Simon Hare. We walked in, swore in, walked over to the Ann Basker, and were asked to approve or disapprove the nuisance ordinances. And there was so many of them there was no way we ever had a chance to look at them ahead of time. So Commissioner Morgan and I said, we're going to break this up into, say, 12 at a time, and we'll take these under different categories. And we've still been working through with those from that day forward. I think as I was pleasantly surprised, and not surprised in one way, but pleasantly surprised in another way, to see how well functioning this county government really is. I've had an opportunity as being liaison to the Sheriff's Department, to Public Works, Community Corrections, Veterans, the Fairgrounds, airports, and transit, and also building facilities. I'm liaison to all of those different departments. And every one of the people I work with on a day-to-day basis, they really overdo what they're supposed to do. And you know, I can ask them, you know, questions, and they put it in language that I can absorb. I only have a high school education here, and I graduated from Grants Pass High School in 1967. I've been married for 50 years to my wife, Pam, and we have 2 kids that are grown. In fact, our daughter just turned 50, and and 6 grandkids, and they're spread out all over across the United States. So I came home here after 4 years in the United States Navy, and when I got here, I said, you know, I had an opportunity to work in Seattle or Portland for Carrier Corporation, but I decided to go right here and raise our children here. We've been here ever since. Been in business for myself for 41 years. I recently sold my business to one of the employees. And, you know, that's a long-term business in Josephine County. I've outlived a lot of radio stations and restaurants and all kinds of stuff. So I asked that I decided I wanted to go for another 4 years. So, you know what, here I am. And I appreciate all the other candidates that decided to run, because this is a real fulfilling office.
All right, great. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
We're going to move to Dan Mancuso.
Sorry about that. My name is Daniel Mancuso. I'm running for Josephine County Commissioner position 2. Became a grandfather for the first time yesterday. My oldest daughter and her husband had a baby, so I'm pretty excited about that. I invested in Josephine County 10 years ago when I purchased the Illinois Valley News, which I run today with my wife, Laura Mancuso. We also run the Upper Rogue Independent based out of Eagle Point. And in the 10 years that I have covered the Josephine County Board of Commissioners, I've gone through 11 individual commissioners that time period. I have a solid grasp. Actually, Dan's the only one on this board right now, or on this forum, that actually knows what it is that a commissioner does day to day. Well, I'm right next to him. I've been there all along. I've seen the successes. I've seen the failures. And I would agree with Dan. The county's doing very, very well right now compared to what we were in 2012 when we lost the funding from the feds. And it doesn't look like the SRS payments are going to come back. I know we got it last year. We think the money just came in. But I don't see it coming moving forward. And to be honest with you, the residents of Josephine County, you know, it's a resilient group of people, rugged individualists. And to be honest with you, I can't see anyone wanting to take money from the federal government instead of creating our own. I do believe we should stay with the ONC lawsuit. They made a commitment and they need to honor that. So either log it or pay us. Either way, as a crop reduction program, it doesn't matter. But the feds do need to honor that. But outside of everything else, I think that we can do it on our own. I think that it's important for people to take care of themselves and be responsible. With that said, I love Josephine County and the Illinois Valley, which is why I'm here. I don't feel that historically the board has looked forward to the future. I joke they want to go back to the 50s. I want to go back to the future. But, you know, it's time we actually start looking out for the next generation and not the next election. So my name's Daniel Mancuso, and I hope you consider voting for me on May 19th.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're moving on to Nathan Siebel. And is that how you say your last name, or Sable?
We actually pronounce it Sable, but that's okay. I'm used to that.
And there's going to be one addition. We'll do a 30-second for you starting now. So we're kind of improvising here too.
Yes.
So
Okay, thank you. So my name's Nathan Sable, and I am the only other person running for position 3 in the race. It seemed like everybody else jumped out. I have 15 years hands-on management experience of complex operations for the state of Oregon that I've been doing. I've been a public servant for 15 years, and I've been involved in forest lands management, recreation opportunities on public lands, wildfire protection, environmental restoration, and even adult corrections. So what that means is I have experience working with budgets, projects, contracts, stakeholder relationships, and of course, people management. I have managed organizations for the state that are much similar to county and its departments. I worked for the Oregon Department of Forestry. I currently manage state parks in Southern Oregon. I've been on chairs and commissions. I was on the Public Safety Advisory Commission. In fact, I was the chair in Forest Grove, and we helped work on public safety levies and also organized a large annual public event for law enforcement. I'm a big supporter of public safety, law enforcement, and firefighting. I was on ODF Incident Management Team 1, worked in logistics for wildland firefighting. And I understand some of those issues there. I know we deal with wildfire issues here in the county. It's complex, and we have to be very strategic about the way we go about that. I've done some legislative work in Salem. I've helped draft bill language. I've testified in front of committees. I've met with legislators and their staff on issues related to public lands. And I've even met with the governor's office on an initiative to promote inmate work programs that was under Kitsauber. I've also managed agricultural operations, including cattle production in Western and Eastern Oregon. I have directly managed tourism and agritourism businesses in private and public sector RV resorts, lodging, campgrounds, and very large off-highway vehicle, mountain bike, and hiking trail networks. I was a licensed Oregon State Marine Board outfitter guide in Tillamook. I owned and operated Tillamook Equine Adventures while there. I had employees and operated from an 80-acre farm. I've also owned and managed rental properties and currently licensed as a used car dealership with my sons here in Southern Oregon, in addition to my state job, so I like to stay busy. I think we could do much more to promote Josephine County in Southern Oregon if the leadership and willingness existed. I consider myself to be a pragmatic conservative, and I don't shy away from problems because they're complex. I know how to get things done. And if I'm not an expert on a certain issue, I'll get the right people together who know how to solve the problem, and I'll lead them to success with that. I've done it for the state over and over again the last 15 years, and I believe I could do it for Josephine County.
Great, thank you. All right, on to Mark Seligman.
Hello, Josie. Hello, everybody. I want to thank the Chamber for putting this virtual meeting on. A little bit about myself. My name is Mark Seligman. I live in the Illinois Valley, Selma, Oregon for 25 years. Why do I want to run for county commissioner? Well, I see us as a low-income county with the second lowest tax rate, deservedly so, because we are a poverty county. The average income is about $39,000. We have many seniors. We have many homeless. We have people that are struggling. My qualifications are the following. I'm a college graduate from the City University of New York with a BA in sociology, so I know society. I have a 2-year degree from Queensborough Community College in New York City with a degree in business administration. I have graduate work in psychology from Sonoma State University. in California. I'm known as a controversial centrist. I get praise and criticism from, depending upon the issue, from Democrats and Republicans. I'm a political activist. I've been to more county meetings than anybody in this room, with the exception of Dan DeYoung, who is a sitting commissioner. I'm a working guy. For 40 years, I've managed the landscape maintenance business in California and here. I know what it is to have difficult times. I've had a mudslide in California, I've had a fire, and I've battled back from both. I know how to think, I know how to reason, I know how to listen to all sides. What I see the great potential in Josephine County for hope and for a better future. We cannot be taxed into prosperity though, but we can be taxed into further poverty. I'm not a guy that would prefer less government and less regulation for law enforcement. The thing that concerns me the most right now is the issue of COVID-19 and its impact on the local economy. Very little of the people in this room have about the social impact of COVID-19. As county commissioner, I propose a tax holiday. A tax holiday means no permit fees, there will be incentives for business, and absolutely no commercial or real estate taxes whatsoever. Now, we're run by 3 county commissioners right now who are from the city of Grants Pass. I think that's a problem. I don't think they recognize the poverty here. I don't think they recognize the future. They've made regulations that affect businesses and affect land use that are negative to this county. As county commissioners, it would be important to realize we have youth and a future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. All right, and last we have Ron Smith.
Well, thank you. Thank the Chamber and thank the Courier for putting on this virtual forum. Kind of a sign of the times, I guess. I'm Ron Smith, a candidate for Josephine County Commissioner position 2. I was born in Josephine County. My family's been in the county over 120 years. I've primarily lived most of my life in the Illinois Valley, but most of my life in Josephine County. I've seen the whole country. I've been involved in this county in a lot of ways, working on the people's side of government over 20 years now, defending our property rights, our liberties, and our freedoms. I've been before the Board of Commissioners many times, over 20 years of going to the commissioner meetings, not as much lately. I've worked extensively with different agencies on huge issues for our county, national monuments, wild and scenic rivers, mineral withdrawals. I'm well acquainted with how government works, but I'm a representative of the people first. I think we have a guarantee that we're representative form of government, and that's really what I want to do. I want to listen to the people, be their voice in government. I think sometimes when we run for office, people want vote from the people, but as soon as they get elected, they start thinking they become a government employee. You're actually there to represent the people and to have their will expressed through government. So my main focus will be in probably 4 areas. I want to bring the biggest benefit to the voters of Josephine County as a commissioner. So I'll probably focus on law enforcement, long-term funding for law enforcement without taxes, because I strongly support the sheriff and his efforts to reduce crime and the drug epidemic in our county. One thing I'd really like to see the sheriff's department have is a detective department. Right now, we're not investigating crime. We're not fingerprinting crime scenes. We're not going after these continual crime gangs that are coming, burglarizing people's property. So we need a detective department. The other thing, housing, our housing shortage is acute here in our county, and we really need to figure out how to streamline that process, make the permitting easier, maybe reduce some regulations. We're going to have to get to the state to have them lighten up. They did a little bit, but not enough. 900-foot accessory dwelling is not working. It's not solving the problem. I would advocate that if you have 5 acres, why can't you build 2 houses on the property? You know, or extra house, so rent it out. But anyway, more housing, definitely need more housing. And then we've got the homeless problem. Homeless is going to, you think this COVID-19 problem, it's going to be a real recovery going to be a struggle to recover from. And unfortunately, I think the homeless problem was getting better, but I think it's going to become worse after this. So we're going to need more housing in our county. We're going to need drug enforcement, and we're going to need law enforcement. A three-pronged approach to the homeless will go a long ways to reducing that population. And then, of course, we're going to need jobs. This COVID-19 is going to really hammer the county. They say 43% of small businesses don't believe they're going to be able to recover from this economic shutdown. So we're going to have to streamline the process. We're going to have to really work on those developments that create jobs. So that's me, honestly, a candidate for the county commission.
Bad reception.
Great, thank you so much. We are now going to move into the questions, and you each have 2 minutes to answer these questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Josh for the first question.
So we're going to start with Commissioner DeYoung first. And as commissioner, what would you, what would be your 3 highest priorities to accomplish in the next 4-year term?
Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked, because first off, I had to convince myself and my wife and the people I'm closely associated with to run for 4 more years. But I think looking forward, I'm going to stay with what my main goal was when I took this office 3.5 years ago, public perception of county government. Until the public actually thinks that county government's working for them, they aren't going to pass anything as far as levies goes, or anything, whether it's a levy, whether it's a proposal for a different style of tax or a different way to fund public safety. I want to see stable funding for law enforcement. And I don't think there's an appetite for raising property taxes to $1.50 or $2 in order to do that. I think there are other ways to get that done. One of them was that we had 2 lawsuits going for the timber industry. One of them was from the O&C counties. That one's been settled. And right now we're in the recovery phase of that, the transition phase of that, which stepped up the mandatory cutting limit, or cutting mandate on O&C county lands to over 500 billion board feet. It's right now presently at around 270 billion board feet annually. So now they have to do that, but that'll be 3 years in coming before those shared receipts come back to us. SRS funding, we've got it for 2 more years, but it's greatly reduced from what it used to be. I'm looking at stable funding for law enforcement. I worked really hard on the levy to get the 93 cents that we have on there right now. And Sheriff and I are working very carefully, and we may be able to lower that a little bit, but we may have to come back for renewal of that levy next year to keep that jail open. That freed up money for the patrols and helped us out tremendously. So I like to work with all of our department heads and to move this county forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mancuso, it's your turn. Do you need me to restate the question?
Well, I'm assuming I just changed it. Like, what do I hope to do in my first 4 years?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I think.
I'm not getting anything.
Sorry, I clicked on my
This is
Photoshop.
horrible.
There we go. Sorry about that. I had an application open up. So I think first and foremost, what this COVID-19 has shown to all America, well, all rural Americans, is the lack of broadband internet infrastructure in rural America. You know, we have children that are supposed to be doing school online, and yet they don't have access to internet. I mean, even people on this forum are having difficulty getting good enough cell service or internet service for them to be able to participate clearly. That is something that again is something that, if you look to the future, that's what a good, in my opinion, as county commissioner, I'm going to look forward to the future and do projects that aren't going to have instant gratification, and broadband internet is one of them. People like to talk about jobs, and quite honestly, we don't really have the workforce, a skilled workforce, to create living wage jobs. And if we actually have good broadband internet, we would actually be able to get companies that their workers could telecommute. It will change the way healthcare professionals move forward in the future as far as being able to see a patient through the teleconferencing. And, that right there, shore up the public safety funding. I've got some ideas for that. The sheriff needs $4 million more to have 24/7 and a detectives division, of which I've got about $1.5 million. I've figured out where that money is going to come from. And we need to really take a look at our homeless and mental situation and start to care for all people. Homeless people are citizens of Josephine County too.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sable? You're on mute.
Okay, I figured it out.
There you go. Do you need me to ask the question, or are you good?
I think the question was your top 3 priorities
Correct.
next 4 years, and
Yep.
it is Sable. Just pretend the E isn't there.
Got it. Thank you.
So my top priorities over the next 4 years, if I were to be elected, would be public safety and livability in the county, business, and the homeless situation. So when it comes to public safety, obviously in 2017, because of the loss of, and it goes back to the loss of federal revenue from timber harvest. In 2017, there was finally that levy passed. I think Commissioner DeYoung mentioned it was 93 cents or so per 1,000 on assessed value of homes. And I believe that bought us a lot. My family's been in the county since the mid-90s. School teachers, working in corrections, youth corrections, those sorts of things. I lived here my first year of marriage in 2001, and I've been back the last 4 years. But I remember when the issue was just awful, where people couldn't get law enforcement response because we didn't have it to give. And we've come a long way. That levy's bought us a lot. The ability to increase jail beds, I think by 160 or something like that, including more deputies to decrease response time around the county and resident counties. That means a heck of a lot to people in communities like Wolf Creek and Cave Junction. So I will champion the renewal of that levy. Obviously, I will always look for ways to find other funding. ONC is a possibility, but that's a new lawsuit, and it's also going to be, it's susceptible to challenge. Well, we need to attract new business. Think outside the box a little bit. I'll be a cheerleader for the county to support current businesses and attract new business. And the homeless situation needs attention. It's a complicated problem. That's why people have shied away from it. There are good people working on it, and there has been efforts, but not like there needs to be. We have 900 resident homeless in the county. That's the most per capita in the state of Oregon. We need to do something creative, and we need to be deliberate and specific and get after it on that issue, and I will.
Thank you so much. Mr. Seligman, you are next, and I'm just going to ask the question again one more time. As commissioner, what would be your 3 highest priorities to accomplish in your 4-year term?
Well, my number 1 priority is the current COVID-19 situation. I'm rather astonished that my fellow candidates spend such little time on that. This county is out of work currently. We have 2 articles in the Daily Courier. This is about confidence in government. One article says last week there were 2,000 to 4,000 people infected. Dan DeYoung likes to take pride in the staffers that staff the various departments. Well, are there really 2,000 to 4,000 people infected with COVID-19? Obviously not. And then we're down to now 140. Yet on Monday, the commissioners were on a conference call trying to open up this county. Is it 140 people infected? Is it 4,000 people infected? Or is it less than that? We need confidence in our public officials. I think a COVID-19 crisis certainly.
Mr. Seligman, I think we lost you.
Sorry about that. but I agree with Dan Mancuso regarding our broadband. It's obviously not good. So taxes, I believe in a tax holiday for all Josephine County taxpayers. We obviously we don't have the jobs, we can't pay the tax. If the county does not have a tax holiday of no property taxes, we're going to have many foreclosures in this county.
Well, I think we lost Mr. Seligman again.
If we continue on this road of keeping the government, taxing people throughout this crisis, we're going to get even poorer. As far as our youth goes, we need to have upward mobility for our youth. We don't have that in a county that's poor. As far as law enforcement, if we have a tax holiday, how would we pay for services? Well, I disagree completely with Dan Mancuso.
Mr. Seligman, your time has expired. We will definitely give you an opportunity to write more information.
We got as much as 16 million once. We can get that again if commissioners push for it. Federal stimulus money can come in. We can't tax the people. We have to help businesses and individuals, not county government. We have a future here, but we have to get through this crisis. That's the most important thing I would do as county commissioner. Let's attack this crisis first. Thank you. And sorry for this poor reception.
All right. Mr. Smith, it is your turn.
What I'd like to accomplish is to serve the people, and my main focus will be law enforcement, housing, and the homeless. But I have to agree a little bit with Mr. Seligman that the COVID-19 will change our focus whether we like it or not, because we have an economic recovery effort that's going to have to be put in place, because I see a lot of small businesses that are suffering. But we really have to, the whole duty of government is to provide for a safe society. So we have to have law enforcement funded. And how we fund that, a lot of that's going to be, whether it's taxes, that's the people's choice. I'm not a tax man. We funded it for a lot of years with timber receipts. I think it could happen again, because we can reduce fire and fund our sheriff. I think that's a good win. On the housing front, we really have a very bad shortage of houses. There's a project in Grants Pass that's got to go ahead where they're going to build fourplexes and duplexes. I think that's part of the answer. One of the largest apartment complexes in Grants Pass was bought by an out-of-state corporation. They doubled the rent overnight. That puts some people out of that facility. If you try to rent a house in Josephine County, we have a housing shortage. It's very acute, and it's supply and demand. When you have a shortage of something, demand goes up and prices go up. So the way to solve the housing pricing is to simply have more housing. And I think the homeless is going to be an ongoing issue for us. This is may even be more exacerbated because of the people that are losing their jobs and may lose their mortgages. So
I'll be going.
Take a three-pronged approach. First of all, I strongly support all the community organizations that help people in their substance addictions. That's important, because I think that's a huge part of homeless. And I think that we need to have law enforcement to go after these pushers and dealers that are bringing these dangerous drugs into our county that are causing some of those problems. And then we're going to definitely need more housing. That's a simple thing. So I really appreciate
this. Wasn't this bad the
Thank
first
you.
time?
All right, thank
We
you.
going to Allen's tonight.
Hey, Mark, you might want to mute yourself when you're not speaking, because some sound is coming off.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. And the last person to respond on this question will be Senator Bertschiger.
Hey, thanks, Josh. So, the first thing at hand right now in everybody's mind is the COVID-19 problem. And as a Senate Republican leader, I'm on the phone every morning, very early with the governor, almost every morning, discussing these issues. And then the rest of the day, if I talk to one more expert, I think my head's going to explode. So, that is the issue of the day. Back at the beginning of this event, I called it the 3 Ps. You're dealing with the plague, the panic, and the politics, and we are. We are talking about lifting some of the restrictions in rural Oregon. The governor has certain conditions. Some of them I agree, some I disagree with, but we're having those conversations, and I'm trying to keep it as unpolitical as possible. However, other people are not. I would say that we're going to start seeing some of those conditions being lifted here fairly soon. And my recommendation is the first place to start is our rural hospitals so that they can get back to work doing procedures that they normally do. Many of those rural hospitals in the state of Oregon are really struggling because they are not doing normal business. And so that's the priority. Once we get them up and running again, then we can start talking about how we can mitigate, do some mitigations for other industries and kind of get going. Look, at the end of the day, COVID-19 is not going to go away tomorrow. It's going to be around, and we just got to figure out how to mitigate. But keeping the county shut down is not an option. People have got to start getting back to doing their daily lives, or they're just going to do it on their own. You will start seeing civil disobedience. Okay, that's the first one. Is my time's up? Is that what that card means?
You have 4 seconds left.
Now I have none.
Thank you. All right, now we're gonna move on to the second question. And the second question is, what steps would you advocate for the county to take to improve the business climate in Josephine County? And we're gonna start with Dan Mancuso.
I don't know how many times I have to say this, broadband internet. That is the main thing that the county could do that would really help businesses. Outside of that, I mean, I'm a business owner myself, and I honestly can't see where the county is interfering in my business at all, other than denying my public records requests, which I have to go to the DA to get overturned. But outside of that, I think that I think broadband internet, and then probably the other thing they could do, but it's really more of a school board. I know the Illinois Valley just brought back their FFA program, and actually, if we're a rural agricultural county, we need to train our children in those skills: caniculture, viticulture, and I always joke, even to be a pot farmer, you have to know math and biology and chemistry. So, but no, I think broadband internet would go a long way to helping the local business people.
All right, we're gonna move on to Nathan Sable. And did you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please. That'd be helpful.
All right, this question is, what steps would you advocate for the county to take to improve the business climate in Josephine County?
Well, I think the county, being conservative as it is, has done a good job of doing what it can to keep taxes low to help attract businesses. That's good. I want to maintain that and even look for ways to do a better job in that area. I would have to agree with Mr. Mancuso. Infrastructure needs to be improved in place. There are some areas of the county you feel like you've stepped back in time. We need to change that. Particularly with this new industry of hemp and marijuana, which I personally am not a big fan of, but I'm pragmatic enough to know that it's here and it's legal, and so we need to learn to deal with it, and also use it to our advantage to help lift some areas of our county and our county in general out of poverty. I think there's a lot of potential there with this, although I want to see more done to keep our kids away from it. So infrastructure for communication and also for travel around the county is very important, and I'd want to work on that. There needs to be an investment in our youth. We need to have, and I would spearhead a program to get our youth paired up with businesses in the county so that they can have an experience, and whether or not they get some kind of school credit for it would be up to the schools. But I'd like to see them paired up with businesses to learn business and to provide needed labor also, where our youth can find opportunities, see opportunities, and gain experience in entrepreneurship right here in the county, and hopefully stick around. That's going to help us boost by keeping some of our best brains, some of our best people here, and our youth by staying here rather than going somewhere else for opportunity, that they stick around and help and invest back into their own communities. So I would work very hard on investing in our youth and educating them and helping them have opportunities to work with other businesses.
Great, thank you. All right, we are moving on to Mark Seligman.
Could you please repeat that question?
Yes. What steps would you advocate for the county to take to improve the business climate in Josephine County?
Well, let's start out with the difficulty I'm having right now, and I agree with Dan Mancuso about broadband for all. We have to improve things for businesses and individuals, not county government. I believe in a trickle-up theory. If businesses and individuals are doing better in Josephine County, we have less family dysfunction, we have less crime. Simply adding more police and more jail space to combat crime is never going to get at the cause of family dysfunction and, you know, not having a job. And right now, people don't have a job. And I agree with Herman, this is going to take a while. So what are we going to do in the meantime? How are people going to survive if they don't have a paycheck? To ask them to pay further taxes, whether you believe in a tax holiday or not, in a year or so, we're going to have a sunset of a tax levy. It is absolutely unconscionable for any candidate or county commissioner to ask for any further tax increase in anything. Because right now, we're going to be at the risk of business failure, tax foreclosures. Now, maybe some of these candidates here have a job that it isn't going to influence them. That's quite possible. But number one, we have to help out our people and not tax them into poverty. And our youth follows right in line with that. So that's what I would do to improve the economy, is to incentivize businesses and no new taxes. And let's get rid of some old ones too. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, and we're going to move on to Ron Smith.
You know, that's a good question, because I went to the Grants Pass City Council or staff's rent burden forum, and one of the prominent developers who holds a lot of real estate in Josephine and Jackson County, he told the city council that he could develop a development in Medford at half the cost he could at Grants Pass. And he pointed his finger right at local government, saying, you're the reason it costs so much. So we really, if we're going to entice a business into the county, we have to have a business-friendly environment. We need to reduce the cost of doing business. I know a gentleman who is still working on doing producing gravel. He had to deal with 23 different agencies and 3 Indian tribes and $3 million to produce a product that's a basic building block of society. Now, who in their right mind would come to Josephine County to do something like that after looking at the record? We got to make this a business-friendly environment. We got to roll back some regulations. Right now, with the way that land use laws are in our state, everything's going to have to happen at 2 locations in the county: Grants Pass and Cave Junction, inside the urban growth. So we're really going to have to lobby the state to lighten up on their regulations, on their land use laws. Josephine County has always been a natural resource producing county. We need to do that some more. Producing from the ground will bring us prosperity. If we avoid that, we're going to have a tough road to hoe, because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the location to entice a multinational corporation. And is that really what we want for the quality of life in our county anyway? So really, we need to streamline the process and make it a business-friendly environment for people to do business here. If the word gets out that Josephine County's open for business, we'll have some. If not, we won't.
Great, thank you. Now we're gonna move on to Senator Bear Sugar.
Yes, so, I hear some of these candidates talking about broadband. I've already helped do something with that. I supported Greg Walden in the USDA's new Reconnect program. So that makes about a little over $500 million available for rural counties for broadband. So we're already working on that. As far as attracting more businesses, look, I'm focusing on keeping the ones we have. The state of Oregon is a very good place to do business. Just in the last few years, we passed paid sick leave. We've passed predictive scheduling. We've passed family leave. We passed a gross receipts tax. The state of Oregon is anti-business. Why would anybody want to come to this state and conduct business? That's what you got to ask yourself. So I would be focusing on helping the businesses we got now. Josephine County, over 70% of the land mass in Josephine County is owned by the federal government. What are they doing? Are they paying their taxes like the rest of us? Are they, we all have to pay property tax. Where's the Fed? Sure, we used to get money from the timber being harvested and mining being produced. That's no longer going on. So the federal government, either we get to utilize some of the natural resources on the federal lands, or they need to pay. They need to pay like the rest of the landowners in this state. So anyways, my focus would be to try to just keep the businesses we have. That would be my #1 focus. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner DeYoung, on to you. Oh, you're still on mute.
You're still on mute.
Better?
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we're all in full agreement with Dan Mancuso on the broadband thing. I think that's, and that has been moving forward. But of course, it's the speed of government again, which is just, works at a snail's pace. I applaud, there's a lot of mentor programs, especially coming out of Illinois Valley High School. We had a mentor here in the commissioner's office, 2 of them. We had one from Grants Pass High School and one from IV High School that come in and follow a commissioner around for a given amount of time. They get school credit while they're doing that. So we've got that, but one of the things we need to talk about is industrial land in Josephine County, the availability of industrial land. We keep saying, well, we want, let's get a big factory in here and they can hire all of our people and then everything will be fine. Well, a company like Brunswick doesn't want to build bowling machines here because our availability of any large parcels of flat industrial land is just not here. You go to Medford and White City, they're already subdivided, all the infrastructure's in, all the utilities are in, you blade it off, it's flat, you pour a slab and you've got a building up within 60 days. Not that here. So our availability of industrial land is limited. Now we've got a company that's here that was born and raised right here in Josephine County, is overlooked, and that's Dutch Brothers. My 2 children had to leave here. One's in Oklahoma City, worked for the FAA, and the other one's down in Los Angeles. But had Dutch Brothers, with all their young, forward-leaning ideas, had they been here then, my kids would probably be working and not have to leave Grants Pass. So let's entertain things like Dutch Brothers. We don't really have a lot of workforce. I see before the COVID thing, there was help wanted signs on all of the restaurants around town. So we really do need a workforce. And I think Dan's brought that up on a couple of occasions also. So get out of the way of the construction business. So, relax, maybe lobby to relax the state requirements, and let's start building some homes.
Great, thank you so much. So we are actually going to change it to 1 minute now. This is taking a little bit longer than we had thought. So for each question going forward, you'll have 1 minute to answer.
And so the next person up is Mr. Sable. And it's going to be, what are the steps you would be advocating for to address the fallout from COVID-19?
Thank you. 1 minute. Well, first of all, we've got to protect the businesses that are being affected right now. Fortunately, there's been a emergency declaration which could bring FEMA funds, but FEMA doesn't come looking for you. You have to go to them, and you have to have documentation to show what you've lost so that you can get back the reimbursements. I've been through that twice when I was up in Tillamook County with the flooding. We had to go to them to show them what our losses were to be able to get those monies. They're there, but we need to be active in doing it. There's also, of course, from the federal stimulus funds, there's funds available, but our businesses need to know. We should be knocking on their doors or calling them to let them know what's available and make sure they know how to get it. The other thing is we need to have a serious after action review in the county to look at our emergency response. Not just Josephine County, but everywhere has found big holes because we just simply weren't ready for this. There's a lot of good people working on it, doing the best we can, but there's things that we can improve and we need to. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Seligman, I'm going to restate the question again here. What are the steps you would be advocating for to address the fallout from COVID-19? We're not hearing you.
But like I've mentioned here, the steps that I would be taking would be primarily regarding COVID-19 and the funding from the state that they're getting from the federal government, as well as money, the SRS payments that county commissioners must be demanding that the federal government come through with. The steps involving the health department, we cannot have the health department come up with statistics that are clearly not accurate. Regarding anything else that we can do, well, we must keep our population safe. We can only open up the state to business and to people if the curve flattens out. This is a very unusual time that we have, and we simply have to safeguard the public and safeguard business.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Seligman. Mr. Smith, your turn.
Well, I think we're going to have to see what's available from the federal government and from the state, seeing as how they're the ones that put us in this position. This is not something we chose, not something that the business owners chose. So it's going to be tough on a lot of small businesses. What can we do for them? Well, I don't think the county has the money, so we're going to have to seek that federal and state money to maybe bail out some of these people. I was talking to a business owner. She was going to get the loan that the government was going to give them, and so she'd struggled for the paperwork for almost a week. And come to find out, it was for 1 month. The money was for 1 month, a low-income loan for 1 month, which does not help her business. So long-term, I think we're going to need to cut out on regulations. I'm kind of tickled with that idea that Seligman has about a tax holiday, but I think we're going to have to get the state to agree with that one. So it's tough. We're going to be in a tough position. I think government needs to learn how to step back, give a hand up, and get out of the way and let free enterprise reign.
Thank you so much. Senator Bergscharger, your turn.
Yeah, so just this morning I was on a call with Congressman Walden. Oregon will be getting $1.6 billion for relief from COVID-19. 43% of that has to go to cities of 500,000 people or more. So basically the tri-counties up in Portland area will get 43% of it. That leaves close to $800 million. And so I've been working with the governor, and my idea is to spread that through the rest of the counties in the state by population, and then give it to the commissioners to issue grants to businesses or individuals in those counties. So it's quite a lot of money coming. It's just how it's going to get dispersed is what we're talking about now.
Cool. Thank you. And Commissioner DeYoung, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes. You know, there's we have to depend on our medical community and our public health director, and so to keep us up on the numbers. The issue is that the numbers are bouncing all over the place daily. It's wear a mask, don't wear a mask, and it's back and forth. At some point in time, somebody is going to have to step up to the microphone and say that we're open for business. I think it should be a very soft opening. If you look at the map that was in the Daily Courier the other night about which counties are affected, how many cases they have, how many deaths, and so on and so forth, rural Oregon is really doing rather well. And I would have expected the governor to stand up and say, hey, we're doing really good in Oregon in comparison to the rest of the West Coast. But I think a soft opening is in order here. I believe that the money that Senator Bear Trigger, if it comes down this way, it should be for reopening of businesses. How to the restaurants to stock their refrigerators and get their people back in and buy all new condiments and stuff. I think that's where we need to focus that to make it as easy as possible for these businesses to get back into the business world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last, Mr. Mancuso. Oh, you're on mute.
Can you ask the question one more time, please?
Absolutely. What are the steps you would be advocating for to address the fallout from COVID-19?
Well, Mr. Weber and the health department have done a bang-up job. The county has done a great job as far as keeping people informed. I get emails throughout the day from Mr. Roberts, and every time I've asked Mr. Weber a question via email, it's been responded to, usually between 8 and 9 o'clock at night. So I know he's running wild. Some misinformation. As far as the Payroll Protection Act, that is they take your 12-month average of your payroll, including owner compensation, and then they give you 2.5 months of that is what you'll get. And as long as 70% of that is spent on payroll, the other 25 can be spent on utilities and other essential items for the business. And if that's the case, then it won't have to be repaid. That was fast.
1 minute goes quick. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right.
All right, we're moving on to our next question. What ways do you think the county can help incentivize or develop workforce housing in our county? And what role can the county play in reducing homelessness? And we are going to start with Mark Seligman.
Could you please repeat that question?
Yes. So it is, what ways do you think the county can help incentivize or develop workforce housing in our county? And then what role can the county play in reducing homelessness?
Well, I'll start with the homelessness first. Commissioner DeYoung and the other two commissioners were Grants Pass city councilors, and they did everything they could to criminalize the homeless by ordinances, whether it be anti-panhandling or whatever. The homeless people on a class action lawsuit took the city of Grant.
Oh, you're cutting out again, Mark.
To continue, they took the city of Grants Pass to court. We cannot criminalize the homeless. We have to have programs for them, like Jimmy Evans has suggested out in Cave Junction, at least washing stations. That's a big issue. We have to have more compassion for our people, including the homeless. And there might be more homeless if we continually raise the taxes. So this would all be a start. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. I'm going to repeat the question again just because it's so long. What ways do you think the county can help incentivize or develop workforce housing in our county? And what role can the county play in reducing homelessness? And it is Ron Smith.
You're on mute. Ron, you're on mute. Ron, you're on mute.
We
Good.
simply need more housing. We don't have enough housing. Our problem is the way the state law is with land use. Most of our development will happen inside of Grants Pass and Cave Junction. We need more apartment buildings. There's been a large amount, thousands of single-family homes built, but very few apartment building units built. So we need to focus in that area, and most of that development is going to happen in Grants Pass. So as a commissioner, I think you're going to have to work with the city of Grants Pass and the city of Cave Junction to see that there's more housing built in those communities, probably apartment buildings, single-family homes. The other thing is that we've had a tremendous amount of out-of-state people come in here with double and triple dippers with retirements that have driven the housing costs up tremendously. The same with the marijuana and hemp industry. People coming from out of state buying up almost all the spare land that we had. That drove real estate prices up. So anyway, more houses. Just simply need more houses.
Thank you. All right, now we are moving to Senator Bayersugar.
So again, you look in the state of Oregon and you have to ask yourself, if I was a developer and I want to put $10 million into a housing project in Oregon, I'm up against the only state that has statewide rent control. I'm up against zoning issues going clear back to the 70s, the Senate Bill 100 that needs to be revisited, and the gross receipts tax. So why would I put $10 million into building housing in Oregon when I could go to another state like Idaho or something, and I don't have all those issues, and I instantly have another 4 or 5% profit? As far as homeless is a human phenomena that is very hard to understand, and you're gonna have to do something to change the human behavior, and that is just going to be very, very difficult to accomplish.
Right, thank you. All right, Commissioner DeYoung.
Yes, talking to one of the developers that's done an awful lot of development in low-income housing, multifamily housing, and so on and so forth. He says that in Josephine County, in Grants Pass, for instance, where you have to the only place you can build multifamily and in incorporated cities, it's $240,000 per apartment to build an apartment building. Now that's out of touch. And one of the problems is the requirements by the state and Department of Energy to build, put these things out to, marble countertops and have all these things of how they would like to live, rather than me. I'm a father of 2 kids and a wife and 2 kids. I want my family to be warm and I want my family to be dry. Let me build a house that can service that for me. And it doesn't need to have all the bells and whistles of a heat pump and high efficiency and electric charging station and solar panels, because that tax price onto the price of the home, and it puts me out of the arena in the buying market. So let's relax some of the state rules, and I think we can do that.
All right, thank you. Dan Mancuso?
Yeah, I really wish you guys would stop lumping homelessness and housing together, because they're 2 separate issues and they're very complicated, and in a minute's not enough time. So I'm going to address the housing issue. We have about 1,500 people who live in Jackson County that commute to Josephine County every day. They come here, earn their wage, and go back to Jackson County and spend it there. So that's lost revenue from Josephine County. And the housing, why aren't we building houses? And I don't think it's the commissioners you should be talking to, it's the developers. It doesn't cost any more money. It's actually cheaper to build in Josephine County than Jackson County, because we have almost $1.50 less per thousand in property tax. And our fees and permits, we don't have any system development fees in Josephine County. So to say it's more expensive to build here than there, that's patently false. I think what I'd like to see is companies, if you're going to build in a rural industrial or rural commercial zone, multi-use, you need to have square footage for your employees for X so many square feet of industrial or commercial space.
All right, thank you. All right, Nathan Sable.
Mr. Mancuso's right. Those are 2 different issues. On the housing issue, I'm trying to do my part. I had to run outside to meet with the contractor. We have 2 lots we're trying to put accessory dwelling units on right now. There's ways that the city and the county can eat at the edges of that with things like that. But On the homeless issue, it's very complicated. I mentioned we have 900 resident homeless. There's mental health issues. There's addiction issues. Some of those folks don't want to be helped, but we do need to do something, and we need to have a deliberate effort to do something because we haven't done enough. I guess that's my time. I'll stop
No,
there.
you still have 20 seconds still.
Oh, okay. I guess I lost my train of thought, but I guess all I can say is we need to have a focused effort and bring together public and private and nonprofit entities to go after the homeless issue. There are things that can be done. I've worked on that in my state work, and we need to do it. And they are separate.
Thank you.
Yep, those are. All right. So the next question is, what role do you think the county could play in helping expand our local workforce? And we are starting with Mr. Smith.
Developing our local workforce. First, you got to have a place for them to go to work. And with this COVID epidemic, we're going to be tough to be held. I think we have a lot of talented people in here. I hear there's developed workforce all the time. And I've talked to dozens of people around here. College, yeah, you can go to college if you want. Where are you going to go to work? You leave Josephine County to get a college education? I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the question. I think we have a very talented workforce here. I think what we need to have better jobs here. A lot of people, very smart people work in the village. There's nothing wrong with that. A good physical job, it paid well, and then fed families. I know a lot of my family fed their families for years, being out in the woods and producing something that America needs. So as far as developing the workforce, we got the college. Let's develop the job so they can stay here and work once they get education.
Senator Bertschiger.
Well, that's a really interesting question. So when you look at the demographic, we have 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. And so we're going to have a declining workforce until about the year 2027. And then it doesn't go up, it just flattens out. So we're going to be struggling for workers. And, I've been employing people in Josephine County for 40 years. And I'm really worried about it. My sons have taken over the business, and it is going to be incredibly hard in the future. There's going to be a lot of competition for employees just because of the demographics in the United States. It is. So I see wages going up because one way to steal employees from your competitor is to pay more. That's what I see is coming. And like I said, that's going to continue on until 2027. And then it just flattens out. There's nothing we can do about it.
Thank you. Commissioner DeYoung, I'm going to ask the question one more time. What role do you think the county could play in helping expand our local workforce?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's only so much the county can do. I think part of the burden falls on the workers themselves. We have a lot of kids coming out of college, and they're told an expectation when they graduate that you can start out at X number of dollars per year and don't take anything less. I think they need the young people need to expand their horizons. Have you called a plumber lately? They make really good money. I was in the heating and air conditioning business for years, and was never going to be a rich man, but I fed my family, and I live very well. I'm not a rich man, but maybe the young people need to lower their expectations and get into entrepreneurship a little bit better. And the Small Business Administration is a really good resource for that out at Road Community College. So look outside the bounds of what regular people, what everybody tells you that you should expect from the workforce. All of us started at the bottom. I can't point a finger anywhere on this screen that we didn't start out the bottom working for $2 or $3 an hour. So that's what needs to happen, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mancuso.
So developing the workforce, broadband internet. If you had broadband internet in every home in rural America, people could telecommute, and we would have people leaving the hustle and bustle of New York City and Chicago and enjoying the beautiful Kalmiopsis on their back deck doing their job. That is key. I'm getting tired of talking about it because to me it's a no-brainer. And I know I hear other people say, well, it's in the works and we've got this money. I don't know anything about it. And if I don't know anything about it, there's the problem. So I don't think it's taken seriously. I don't believe it's a thing of concern. But yeah, when you have people like Playcraft that can't even hire people, I don't think we don't have a workforce. And if you look at the numbers, 62% of all people in Josephine County weren't even born here. So that tells me that we have an aging and retirement population, and they need goods and services, and we need educated or trained people to do those.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Mr. Sable.
Thank you. That is an interesting question. There is only so much the county can do. There's all kinds of layers of government, and the county has its role, but I do believe the county can have leadership in speaking with other layers of government to try to put forward some efforts. There's a couple of things. One is help the workforce stay off of drugs. That's a big problem, especially in natural resource businesses that we have here in Josephine County. They have trouble just finding people who are clean. The other is industrial arts. I hire 40 people a year. They lack the skills they need to do what we need them to do. We need to have apprenticeship programs for our kids. We're working with the schools, whoever, to create those linkages so that our in-house workforce are getting together with the businesses they need to get the skills that they need. And so I would strongly try to create and expand an apprenticeship program for our youth in this county.
And finally, Mr. Seligman, I'm going to ask the question one more time. What do you think the county? What role do you think the county could play in helping expand our local workforce?
By incentivizing businesses, by not adding extra taxes, by not kicking billion-dollar industries like the cannabis industry to the ground. I take issue with people that say there's lots of jobs there. Yeah, if you want to work at Taco Bell for 5 years, yeah, there's lots of jobs. The kids don't have upward mobility. They have to leave. You can't work at Dutch Brothers and expect to own a house. Commissioner DeYoung owns real estate property. He is a rich guy compared to most of the people in Josephine County. So we have to lower taxes. We have to give kids a chance, and they're not getting a chance by kicking billion-dollar industries out of here.
All right.
So that's what I would do. It's not as good as you think. Kids can't earn a living on $15 an hour. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Nate, you got the next one?
Yes. All right, now we're moving on to the next question, and we're going to start with Senator Bearsugar. And the question is, what is your position on the county regulating cannabis and hemp?
Oh, boy.
Well, I think if anybody followed me at the State House, any kind of I have difficulty in regulating one industry and not the other. So because that's just how I'm built, I'm just built that way, that any regulation on a specific industry within a county needs to go to a vote of the people. And I don't think the commissioners should do that on their own. I really struggle with that. I understand the complicated argument of cannabis in Josephine County. But I am a Republican, I am a conservative, but there's a little bit of that libertarian in me too. So it's a very difficult situation. A lot of people on both sides of the issue. And when it's like that, I think it absolutely has to go to a vote of the people.
I knew you'd say that.
Great, thank you. All right, Commissioner Dan DeYoung.
Yes, that's a real touchy subject in Josephine County because I get so many complaints and against that industry, but it is legal. I'm all for legal cannabis, and then cannabis to me includes medical marijuana, OLCC, recreational marijuana, and also the hemp industry. It's all the same plant. It just has different THC content. The nuances and the complaints that come into this office and the sheriff's office and to planning and all across the board, they're all the same. They're the same on the hemp industry, the smell, the dogs, everything. You know what it is. But if it's legal, then how do we not necessarily control it, but how do we channel it? Now I put together tried, and of course, I agree with Senator Beartrigger that everything needs to go to the vote of the people. I put together a tax proposal on the cannabis industry, and before hemp was legal, and it got shot down at the State House. So, I tried, but we were going to put it to the vote of the people, and it never got there because it got shot down at the State House.
All right, thank you. Dan Mancuso.
The county unsuccessfully tried to ban recreational growing back in 2018. And at the time, we had a problem. And the problem at the time was we have this amazing amount of code violations, over 1,000 of them. I actually won a case against the county because they refused to turn over information in the public records request that I then took to the DA, and the DA ruled in my favor. So after they went ahead and banned, the ban was overturned by LUBA. They came up with the second generation RR5 ban, using code violations as a way to kind of get rid of people that are legal growers, because stands for legal growing, allegedly. But what we don't hear about anymore is what happened to all these code violations. Code violations was the big problem. We had over 1,000 code violations. We don't hear boo about them. So once you ban the RR5 growing, all the code violations magically disappeared. So I think the growers need to be good neighbors. And I don't think you can legislate morality. But I think that the state sets the rules for farming. It's a farming product, and they just need to be good people.
All right, thank you. All right, Nathan Sable.
Thank you. Yeah, this is one of those issues where every good conservative has to ask, how much do I really believe in states' rights? The people have voted in the state of Oregon. It's already happened, and it's legal. And I want to be clear that I am not a supporter of recreational marijuana. I am very concerned about its effects on young and undeveloped minds. And I do not want my kids to touch it. And we need to do much more in this county to keep kids away from it. I understand, though, that many people can do fine with it, and many professionals. And I'm not making any statement on that. I just know that it's not good for young kids. However, I am not comfortable with the arbitrary restriction of a legal thing, whether it's on a land use basis or on sales. And where we have that in the county, we need to take a second look at that. It is legal. We do have, of course, hemp and medical marijuana. We need to look at developing that. It could be a huge economic boost for us, and I think it has been, but it could be done more. So I don't like it personally, but I'm pragmatic enough to know that we need to support it as a legal industry, just like anything else, and don't do any arbitrary restrictions against it.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mark Seligman.
Okay, this is right up my alley. Commissioner DeYoung said the good people are leaving and the bad people, the marijuana growers, are leaving. That's quite a negative statement in this county that help the economy. We need to have no more code violations, huh? Well, Dan DeYoung had no problem with hemp, and the hemp possibilities of code violations are far, far more extensive. This is no other county that I know with $1 billion industry into the ground like this one, 60% less growth. This would incentivize this area. People want to come here, investors will invest in this area. with a legal marijuana industry. What Commissioner Dan DeYoung, the people that are thanking him right now is the black market. He's encouraged legal people to go to the black market. So this is what we need to do. We need to go to the future, not to the 50s. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ron Smith.
Well, I'm not a big guy on regulations. I'm not a big guy on government controlling and taxing us. Private property is kind of sacred in America. I think the biggest two complaints that I hear about marijuana is water use, not having a water right or a water usage license. I don't know what that is, or encroachment upon people's property. I think the whole idea of growing on rural residential, if you're going to have zoning at all, that should have probably went to a vote of the people. I think we would have solved a lot of problems in the county that way. As far as an industry goes, it's going through its growing pain. It's legal in the state. It's legal in the hemp's legal nationally. So I think we have an industry here that's going to go through some growing pains. We're going to have to struggle a little bit, but I think in the long run, it's a cash crop. I like it because I've watched the farm fields for 30 years sit there fallow, doing nothing. At least they're producing something now, and that's really what Josephine County has to do. We have to produce from the ground if we're going to have wealth in this county.
Great, thank you.
All right, next question, and this is for starting with Commissioner DeYoung. What are your thoughts on a potential renewal of the public safety levy?
Well, I worked really hard with Sheriff Daniels on this. When this came to us right after Commissioner Morgan and I were sworn in, it was like a matter of a couple of weeks before the sheriff approached the Board of County Commissioners and asked us to refer to the voters a 93 cent per thousand property tax to fund keeping the jail open and increasing the beds and mounted there and reopening the juvenile detention center that had been closed for 12 years. I think the sheriff, of course, we put out a lot of basically promises at that time, and we were met with, "Oh, that'll never happen. You never put the money where you say you're going to." But it's by law, you have to put it wherever it says you put that on the ballot, and we've done that. I think the sheriff's been very, very successful in earning the support of the public. I really I can't see it going any more. In fact, I would not move it for more. I don't think I think Sheriff's done a fantastic job, and it may come back in 2021, and we have that amount of time. It may be in November, it may be in May of 2021, but I look for it to be renewed or a reduced amount to be renewed. I think there's that kind of confidence.
Thank you. Mr. Mancuso. You're on mute.
There you go. Yes, I am not ashamed that I wholeheartedly back a renewal of that levy. As someone who is in the news business, I can tell you that we have more to report on now. The sheriff's deputies are out there. I think that Dave Daniel and his staff have done a phenomenal job, and I can't praise him anymore. For anybody to be against this, and for anybody that actually wants to go backwards to where we were in 2012 and 2013 and 2014, I would say that there would be a clear and present danger to the county in general and to its citizens.
All right. Mr. Sable.
Thank you. I support public safety 100%. Obviously, taxes can be controversial, but in this case, where people vote on their tax, that's a community coming together to say we need to improve something and work together. So I support it. I support the sheriff and all the public safety departments. I believe that we have to keep a livable county. We can talk about jobs, we can talk about bringing new businesses and all sorts of things, but if it isn't livable, it doesn't matter. And for a county to be livable, or any community, people need to feel safe. You have to have safe communities where crime is low, where crime is deterred, and where there's quick response times for health responses in emergency crisis. And so I support public safety 100%.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Seligman, I'm going to ask the question one more time. What are your thoughts on a potential renewal of the public safety levy?
First of all, it should be pretty obvious. I am for law enforcement. I'm for getting our SRS payments back, which the climate now due to COVID-19 is probably pretty good. I'm for getting federal stimulus money. I want to ask all the pro-taxers, and Dan Mancuso and Dan DeYoung are the pro-taxers. We'll see if Herman's going to be as much of a fiscal conservative on this issue as I am. You cannot tax people into prosperity. How are people going to pay their taxes if they don't even have a job? That's the clear and present danger, what's going on right now. Josephine County is always the first county to suffer and the last to recover. Well, we're going to be suffering. What are you going to do? Tax these people so their homes are foreclosed upon and there's more homeless? It is simply unconscionable. I'm really interested in hearing what Herman has to say because he championed fiscal conservatism, and I want to know if Herman would support me in not supporting further tax levies. That's my position.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith?
I'm not a tax and spend politician. In fact, I'm not a politician at all. I'm a person just like you that wants to have Josephine County be better. That being said, I am a supporter of public safety because I believe that's the first primary duty of government, is to create a safe society. On taxes, that's totally up to the people. Like I said, we have a system set up. If the people want a service, they have to decide what level they want that service as and what they're willing to pay for it. So as far as the levy goes, put it to the vote of the people. If the people want it, they'll pay for it. As far as me as a commissioner putting that on the board, no, I won't. If the people want to put a tax levy on the ballot, they got a process they can do that. An initiative petition will put it right out there. That'll show them whether they have support for their issue or not. But as far as public safety, I'm 100% for it. The level of taxation on it, that's up to the people. It's not up to me as a commissioner.
Okay. And Senator Bertrigger?
Yeah, thank you. So, you know, when you look at law enforcement in Josephine County, you got to roll back 40 years ago. The federal government basically paid for all of our law enforcement. If you look at the Josephine County patch that all the officers wear on their sleeve, you'll see a log truck. That was because the federal timber paid for law enforcement. When that went away, then that burden was put on the public solely, and no longer was the federal government helping us out with that. When we built the jail, and we didn't fund it, we're just now climbing out from under that rock. So I'm on the record all over the place, my entire political career, is that politicians do not levy taxes on its citizens. Citizens levy taxes on citizens.
Okay. And we're down to our final question, and Josie's going to ask it.
All right, for our final question, as commissioner, what steps would you take to reduce wildfires and smoke in our county? And we're going to start with Dan Mancuso.
Can I ask you to, I apologize, can you ask the question again?
Yeah, absolutely. As commissioner, what steps would you take to reduce wildfires and smoke in Josephine County?
Well, I certainly wouldn't support Senate Bill 1536 that Herman actually voted no on when it moved out of committee into Ways and Means, and I think it's kind of died. What the state is attempting to do, in my opinion, is protect insurance companies and make it so that you can't build in a wildland urban interface. And this all came from the governor's task force on wildfires. It's a joke, and I thank Herman for standing up against that, and I hope it does not move forward in its current form, because a one-size-fits-all is not going to solve anything. The county owns 30,000 acres of timber, and outside of that, all the other land is either owned and controlled by the state or the federal government. The state of Oregon does a great job. I think they keep all of their fires under, I want to say, an acre, but it might be under 10 acres. And it's the feds that seem to let things get out of control, and we have very little control and influence there, no matter what anybody wants to say.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Nathan Sable.
Thank you. It is a complicated issue because of the overlaying property ownerships, the patchwork of property management, property ownerships across not just Josephine County, but everywhere. But wildfire suppression is a complicated thing. You have to have a combination of fuels removal. That's one of the very few things that's within our realm of influence and ability to deal with. Sustainable timber thinnings, fuels reduction. There's also a huge part on the land managers, including private land managers, that they are compliant with IFPL levels and understand the fire risks that are around them. We also have to have the relationships in place with publicly funded and privately funded suppression organizations so that suppression happens quickly and fires stay small. So there's a number of things that have to be done. The county needs to do what it can within its realm of influence, but there's not just a one silver bullet solution to the wildfire issue, but there are definitely things we could be doing locally to help out and advocating for with other layers of government.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mark Seligman.
Well, I firsthand know the dangers of fire. My house burned down several years ago. We need to have better forest management.
Mark, we can't hear you.
Better forest management. It's a combination of better forest management and individuals who are county commissioners that are concerned with climate change, because our summers are hotter and drier and we don't get as much rain as we used to get. So it works together. If you're a climate change denier, you're not helping on the fire issue at all. So both, we must have not clear cutting.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mark. We're gonna move on now. Whoops. All right, up next is Ron Smith.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a serious issue. We've suffered through enough smoky summers, and that really hurts what we have as far as tourism, and the health issue is horrible for anybody with any preconditions. The issue is mostly federal, and it really is because most of our fires start on federally controlled land. In fact, a large majority of them that started here in Josephine County start in the Calamiopsis Wilderness. It's got what they call a lightning alley that runs right down through that. I don't know, most of it's burnt, maybe it won't burn again. But we need to force coordination at the county level. The laws are in our favor. They're supposed to, those federal agencies are supposed to coordinate with local government. Writing a letter to them won't do them. I'm one for thinking that we need to sue the federal agencies for not living up to the law and coordinating with the local counties. We need to have more say-so in the forest management. I would advocate that we take some of these strategic roads, and if the feds don't want to do anything, we'll declare a public health and safety emergency, and we'll go out in these roads and turn them into fire breaks.
Great, thank you. All right, Senator Bearsugar.
So Josie and Josh, there's no way to talk about this issue in 1 minute. Last year was my 43rd fire season. I'm a incident commander type 3. I'm a level 3 wildland fire science instructor, and I still consult with the Forest Service hotshots on doing different things. I've made several trips to DC, and one of my trips I testified in front of Congress on it. So this is a very complicated issue, and there is no way I can talk about it in 1 minute. I'm not even going to try to talk about it in 1 minute. But if anybody would like to sit down and have a long, lengthy conversation of what we're experiencing in the western states of the United States, I would more than well entertain that. But I am not even going to try in 1 minute. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner DeYoung.
Well, we have, we have a vast amount of federal land with timber on it. We've got a pretty good sized chunk of ground that is Josephine County managed. Timber management, forest management, it all goes hand in hand. It seems like a few years ago when we had these wildfires out of control, it was almost like they had to get everything put together on the federal level before they could finally move in and start the fire. And when I was fighting fires in the Navy, you didn't let it get big. You got it small and you contained it and you put it out because it was never going to be a good thing. Now, I know fire can be used as a management tool, but I think the last year, the Oregon Department of Forestry took on more of what the federal lands, the federal pushed more of that onto Oregon Department of Forestry. They did a fantastic job. Why? Because of the Oregon Department of Forestry. And they like to keep those fires underneath, lightning strike fires especially, underneath 10 acres. Did a great job of it. My hats go off to them.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much. We're going to do our 3 minutes for closing statements. I just want to thank you guys very much for taking the time. And I also want to thank my wife for cutting my hair because I was looking very shaggy. So thank you, babe. All right. And I guess we're going to start with with Mr. Mancuso.
Oh, he was last.
Oh, he was last. No, so, I'm sorry. So Mr. Sable, your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay, thank you very much. So I really do appreciate this opportunity to talk. There's lots of good ideas. Most of these issues are very complicated and we cannot solve them in a forum like this, but at least we can give the voters an idea of how we think and some of our background and experience. So in speaking of my background and experience, I've worked in the private sector in tourism, but for the last 15 years, I have been working as a public servant for the state of Oregon, managing very complex organizations that had to do with forestry management and also wildfire suppression and corrections. I used to manage the largest inmate work camp in the United States. It happens to be here in the state of Oregon. And I believe very strongly in public lands should be multi-use for everybody. I believe very strongly that we have the smarts and the know-how to keep our lands and natural resources productive for the people and also protect them for the environmental qualities. My family here, I've got 4 kids here in Josephine County. I want to represent families. I believe we need to have families represented on the Board of County Commissioners. I have schooling and work background in agricultural operations. I have a bachelor's and a master's from Oregon State University in agriculture and fish and wildlife. I believe in healthy land, healthy communities. I believe in your constitutional rights. I believe that every layer of government, and there are many, there are 96,000 governments in the United States, minus 1 for the federal, 50 for the states, and everything else is counties and cities and special tax, those sorts of things. And it's the responsibility of every layer of government to uphold your rights, and I believe that. I am a pragmatic conservative. I'm a relationship builder. I know how to get people together to solve complex problems. Some problems you aren't going to solve. You're just going to make generational improvements on them, and we have to be realistic about that. I will do the best I can with the skills and knowledge that I have, and where I don't have skills and knowledge, I'll get the right people together to work on those issues. I've been doing that for more than 15 years, and I'll continue to do that for Josephine County. And I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
And Mr. Seligman, your 3-minute closing. And we lost him. So we're going to go to Commissioner Smith. Or I'm sorry, Commissioner, sorry. With Mr. Smith, your 3-minute closing.
Thank you for the title. I'm Ron Smith. I was born here in Josephine County. My family's been here for over 120 years. They've been loggers, ranchers, farmers, and miners. They helped build this county. I've been working on the people's side of government for over 20 years, defending our property rights, our liberties, and our freedoms. I'd like to continue that work as your county commissioner. as a commissioner, I want to give us the biggest benefit to the people, and that will be by focusing on three main areas: law enforcement, housing, the homeless, and jobs. I'm running as the People's Commissioner. I've been the People's Commissioner for a long time. I've worked on the people side of government for a long time on a lot of different issues. I'm an honest man. A man of integrity who will always listen to the people and never forget that he serves the people of Josephine County. If you want somebody who has an open door and a transparent policy, that's me. I have no hidden agendas. My one desire is to see that the will of the people is expressed through county government. So if you elect me as your commissioner, you'll get somebody that's the people's commissioner, that will listen to the people, that will represent the people, that will be open and transparent, and let the people always be aware of what's happening inside of their government. I'll be the voice of the people inside of government. So I'm Ron Smith, candidate for Josephine County Commissioner, position number 2. Thank you.
Thank you. He left again. So let's go to Senator Berkshire, your 3-minute closing.
Well, Josie and Josh, thank you so much in the chamber for doing this. These are very interesting times, and I think we need to pay attention to that. We don't know what this is going to do to our economy. I was on a conference call with the state economists last week, and just a lot of interesting stuff. I will tell you that there will be a decline in revenue coming to the state. How much, I don't know, but it could be very significant. So I don't see a lot of help coming from the state in the next few years, simply because the state will be dealing with across-the-board cuts. I think we need to look at Josephine County. Right now, I think she's ticking along pretty good, but we may have some dark clouds heading our way, and we probably ought to start analyzing that and start thinking, what if this does happen, what actions are we going to take? And we probably ought to start running some models of what that'll look like. Josephine County is only going to be so big. 3/4 of it's owned by the federal government. We only have so much land to develop. We only have so much places to build. Our population is never going to get real big here, simply because we don't have the land mass. You go to a Midwest county in Iowa or anywhere else, and every single acre pays some property tax. We're never going to see that in Josephine County. So I'll circle back. I want to work to keep the businesses here that are here right now. When I started logging in the 1970s in Josephine County, we had 13 sawmills. We have 0 now. It's going to be, and because of what the state has imposed on business, with everything from rent control, gross receipts tax, paid sick leave, family leave, predictive scheduling, a 10% income tax, and I could go on and on. It's going to be very hard to attract big businesses. You look at the big businesses, they are leaving states that are high taxed. And I think you're going to see that in the future here in the state of Oregon. That worries me. So I will concentrate on keeping the county functional, watching the purse strings, and try to keep the businesses we now have here. Thank you again.
Thank you. Commissioner DeYoung.
Yeah, I just want to focus on kind of where we've been in the last 3 years. What did the county used to look like? Clear back in the real bad times when Commissioner Hare had to come into office and he had to lay off 120 people in one afternoon, and that didn't set well with him, didn't set well with anybody, but it was necessary. It's a hard job, it's a hard task. He had to do it. As CEO of the county, one of the things you can do is just say, am I going to go up there and run everything? Or am I going to surround myself with very, very competent people that can report back and discuss problems and discuss any kind of challenges that their individual departments come up with? I think we have that team in place right now. We didn't make it. We basically inherited it. Anybody gets to this point, they didn't go back 50 years and start in on it. They inherited a lot of this. I feel very grateful and blessed that we have such a fantastic team on board. Some of the things we've done, first off, the levy. Pass that levy. Hadn't been passed in a long time. Nobody else would listen to a levy proposal until we brought it forth. They had the backing of the commissioners. Second, look at all this going on at the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds was going to be sold, and that would have taken a good chunk of our community and given it to a shopping center maybe. But now it's up and coming, and it's really going to be stellar in the next few years. I'd like to see that happen. And also, we've got the airports. The airports is just on the verge, I hope, of getting a 1,500-foot runway expansion. Out in Illinois Valley, they're going to recap the runway out there, $4 million project. They're getting ready. We just got the water rights to a fire suppression pond out there in Cave Junction. We needed that before we can go forward with the plans for a future industrial park out there. Take one look at it. As far as I'm concerned, it's how can our government work for you? Good example of that was, let's take the Merlin Sidewalk project. Boy, oh boy, was that controversial. We had standing room only saying, I don't want the sidewalk project in Merlin. I asked why, and they said because nobody ever came to us and asked us. So I took the plans and went out there and went door to door. By the time I was done, we got a thumbs up from about 80% of the people. The project moved forward. I think Merlin, even the people that didn't like it, are coming up to me at the groundbreaking, at the ribbon cutting, and saying, we were wrong. This really looks nice. And thank you very much for sticking with us on this. So I think we've got a long way to go. I'd like to be here for 4 more years to see that through and see some of the projects we have going on. Also, and people that say no new taxes, we can't tax anybody. All we can do is bring it to you for your opinion. And that's where we want to take it. We will not ever, none of the 3 commissioners, none of us can issue a tax on you. Herman Bear Trigger was absolutely right. You approve a tax. That's all that happens there. So I'd like 4 more years. I'd like your vote. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Mancuso, your 3-minute closing.
I'd like to thank both of you for doing this. I really do appreciate it. And I might be reaching out to you to see if your wife will give me a haircut because I'm feeling a little long. You know, like I said, I've lived here 10 years, and I don't think how long someone has lived in an area is a very good determination of their grasp of the issues that everyday Josephinians have to deal with. I think that as a news professional, I am forced to address every issue, and so I have an amount of knowledge on just about anything that you guys are worried about. I might not be the premier expert, but I know who that person is, he or she, that I can reach out to. I think in the 10 years of following the county commissioners, I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen them actually complete a whole lot. They want to talk about the industrial park out the Illinois Valley. That's been going on for 20 years, and we still don't have anything. You know, we've got a 5,000-foot runway at the Illinois Valley Airport. You can land a 737 on that. We have 4,000-foot runway in Grants Pass. They want to make that 55, but we have a 737 can land at the Illinois Valley today. Larry Graves has done a great job. He's getting it resurfaced. Last year before, we had a new lighting, so we're going to be set for the next 30 or 40 years. And I think that you should actually hold your commissioners accountable to the things they actually accomplish. As far as the housing and the homeless issues, a lot of that is out of the the control of a county commissioner. But you do have to ask yourself, why aren't developers developing here in Josephine County? We obviously have a larger labor force than we have housing. Why aren't they? And I believe a lot of it falls down to reputation that stems from lack of proper law enforcement. I think that's a huge problem. And that's something that I will really work forward to try and get the sheriff the money he needs without taxing the landowners. I think that there's a way that we can get money. I got about $1.5 million for the 4 without costing anyone in Josephine County a penny. And those are if you're looking for fresh ideas, if you want to see the same old faces that run every year, you've got that here. But if you want fresh approach to things, someone that has new ideas, that's up for the job, that's qualified, competent, and actually has the commitment that this job requires. And I appreciate that you vote for Daniel J. Mancuso on May 19. If you want more information, you can go to www.danman2020.com to learn more about me, learn how to volunteer, or even donate if you want to do that. So have a great day.
Thank you. Mr. Seligman, are you back on?
Hope.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I hope I'm back.
Closing?
Good.
Okay.
I'll be as good as I can. Social centers, some.
Are you still there, Mark?
Mr. Seligman?
I'm back on.
Okay.
So my whole philosophy is we got a COVID-19 crisis. It cannot be business as usual. Josephine County, unfortunately, might head into a recession. I hope if he's elected that he will not just, say it's up to the people. Hey, I won't support this. It takes a commissioner to put it on the ballot. If you don't put something on the ballot, it doesn't go further. I will not put on the ballot any new taxing measure. Our people are hurting. We have homeless issues. We have monetary issues. If you vote for Mark Seligman, it's a vote for the people, not a vote for government. I'm not going to be standing out, saying how great we're doing. Right now, we need to help the people. A vote for me will help the people. I will try to get funding from the federal government, but if we can't, I'm really sorry. Services will have to be cut. That's the reality of it, because people will not be able to afford their bills. There'll be tax foreclosures. There'll be higher unemployment. We're at 14% right now. So until we pass this crisis, I am for a tax holiday where at least homeowners will have money in their pocket because they won't have to pay the county. And there's, it's an unfortunate situation. Who would have expected COVID-19? I'm in support of the cannabis industry and hemp industries that would have given us a little bit of a cushion. But commissioners like Dan DeYoung made sure that 60% of the grows were, out of his county. And interestingly enough, nothing said about hemp. So again, I want to thank the chamber for putting this on. I'm sorry for my poor reception. There's one thing I agree with Dan Mancuso on: better broadband for all. So if you're interested in voting for me, you can look up Mark Seligman 2020 on Facebook. I've been a politician fighting government, fighting for property rights, and I will continue to do so as a county commissioner. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate all of you being willing to serve in the public interest, and thank you for participating and helping our local businesses as much as you do. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll make sure to share this recording with you and the public. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm gonna go shut